Who thought you would come to a conference and make new friends? To kick off this afternoon, we have a really cool conversation. Two people are joining us virtually. We're going to talk about how to take control of cloud costs. As you all know, your cloud spend can easily spiral out of control when you're relying on hundreds of applications and microservices. That's why we invited two of the foremost experts on managing costs, Brent Segner of Capital One and Anand Jivan of GSK. Brent and Anand will dive deep into how they truly take command of their cloud costs through a combination of advanced technology and smart planning. To facilitate our conversation, we're going to invite Ethan Andishak to the stage. Something cool about Ethan is that books literally changed his life. They changed his zip code. That he and his wife used to visit Portland every year just to hang out in a massive bookstore downtown. And they would bring home stacks of books when they flew home. I was curious, like suitcases full? Stacks. And they lived on your bedside table for how long? No, okay, all right. We have bedside table stack contests, and eventually they loved the bookstore so much that they moved to Portland. Just curious, has anybody else moved for a book? No one. Like no one read a story and it was like Boulder, Colorado sounds like the greatest place on earth. I'm going there. Okay, all right. Ethan is unique.
It's a weird thing. I get it.
I like it. Brent, who will be joining us virtually, when he is not optimizing cloud cost and performance, you can find him on the pitch coaching travel teams. What I think is amazing is that on the pitch lets you know a lot about Brent. Over the past 20 years, coaching has taken him across the US and to incredible international destinations like Italy, France, and Spain. And then we will welcome Anand to introduce himself. All right. Thank you, Ethan.
Thank you, Kaylee. Let's see, do we have our panelists here? We've heard a little bit about them, but I'd like to invite them to kick things off by telling us a little bit about their role at their respective companies. So let's start with you, Anand. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you do at GSK?
Yeah, hi Ethan. Thanks for having me on Autocom this year. So my role, I am a senior director of platform engineering. So my team owns and runs the cloud platform engineering, and we engineer the cloud landing zones for GSK, as well as the cloud services that go on top, which are then consumed by our application and development teams. So we've got to make sure that all of our cloud services are secure, compliant, and cost effective. And I will add, I'm sorry, I didn't do my bit about bio separately. Similar to Brent, actually, I'm pretty sporty. So over the years, I've probably engaged in 10 to 20 different sports, which means I'm pretty competitive. But unfortunately, that also means I've broken lots of bones and had injuries due to these sports. So that's probably not a fun fact for me, but maybe for others.
That's terrific. Thank you so much. Yeah, that's a great fact. I see what you're doing. You're both very into sports, and I was talking about how much I like books. I get it. Yeah. We'll go to Brent. Yeah, can you tell us a little bit more about what you do at Capital One?
Yeah, so first I do want to point out that Anand and I have more in common than I'd like to be able to admit. So we'll share some more stories afterwards. So I'm a distinguished engineer at Capital One. I do all things cloud cost optimization, performance engineering, capacity management. So pretty much runs the gambit across our cloud infrastructure. Most recently these days, I find myself talking infinitely about GPU optimization or trying to be able to find optimizations at the software layer.
Terrific. Thank you so much. Now that we know a little bit more about your focus, let's dig in. So Anand, we'll start with you. What are the key problems that you're tackling with the cloud, and how has that cloud presence changed over the past few years, whether that's from the needs of your products or from the components in the stack themselves?
So generally, as a central platform engineering team, our goal is to be offering many, like I said earlier, secure, compliant, and cost-effective cloud services. I think one of the key things for us in terms of benefiting from cloud computing is being able to innovate fast and being able to fail fast. So within our industry, within pharmaceuticals, it's very important that we are able to pinpoint the path we're going to go down quickly and early. So the cloud technologies have allowed us to do that. And so for my team, what we're trying to do is go down the road of the serverless technologies, which allows us to innovate and provide our application and teams and developers with these tools and these services for them to experiment and deploy quicker. And so therefore, these things allow us to be able to get to market quicker. And I think that would just not be possible in the previous world where we were on premise. I think really over the last few years, what has really proved that is the way in which we've adopted AI. I would never have been able to, give the application teams and developers those AI services if we were sat in a data center. And I think that's really come to fruition, I think, over the last few years, obviously. So I think the next bit will probably be quantum, let's be honest. So, as quantum comes along, that's going to be the next thing. And I think, I'm excited to actually see the integration of quantum with AI. That's going to be scary. So that's really where we come in, and that's what we're doing. Ethan.
Terrific. Thank you so much. Yeah, that makes sense. Brent, any thoughts on that too? How has the stack and cloud presence specifically for Capital One changed over the last few years?
I think it's probably just a phase of maturity. Like at the very beginning, it's all the blocking and tackling type stuff. Do you have all the observability you need in place? Are you doing all the appropriate tagging? Then you take a few steps forward and you start to be able to talk about, do I have the correct instance types and sizes? And what I find that where we are now kind of in our maturity journey or our arc is that we continue to be able to move up the stack. Each time that we solve a problem, it's not that there's no more problems to be able to solve. We've just now got to be able to start solving them a little bit closer to where the developers live.
Phenomenal. Sounds good. All right, Brent, we'll stick with you for a moment. How are you thinking about the balance of giving engineers the freedom to burn rubber and build fun things for your customers without breaking the bank on cloud costs?
Oh, I love it. Okay, so twofold from our perspective. First is that there's no developer in the world that ever woke up in the morning and said, "Oh, I would like to be able to remediate these vulnerabilities," or "Oh, yeah, I can hardly wait to be able to do patching." So for us, a lot of it starts to be okay, can we actually start to abstract away those pain points from the developers so they can focus on what they really want to be able to do, which is go out there and build unique products and services, something new and creative. So it starts to be a conversation how do you do this? It's, putting on infrastructure that takes care of itself, or giving them tools to be able to provision infrastructure that takes care of itself. The second element to it is can we help start to be able to remove arbitrary uniqueness or pain points in their process that make it really difficult for them to be able to iterate and move on very, very quickly.
Terrific. Thank you. Anand, how about you? Any thoughts about striking that balance of giving engineers freedom without, breaking the bank?
Yeah, I think Brent, made some great points there, and I think for me, we do provide the same things as what Brent does at Capital One, and I think it's those guardrails. It's almost like a pre and a post event, so ensuring all of those guardrails are in place, like the visibility and all of the cost effectiveness is there when the developers are provisioning, but then also post provisioning, allowing and having tools for them to manage it ongoing. And I think the vulnerability thing is a really important piece of it, especially in regulated companies. Both Capital One and GSK are in regulated companies, so that's really important. I think the other element of it is mindset. So I think our role within our company is to change the mindset, of the developer, or to change the mindset of all of our engineers to be more cost savvy, because it's now not a case of, hey, you buy this piece of hardware and you just buy it off of capital expenditure and then it depreciates. This is operating expenditure that is coming out of the company. And I think it's that mindset, and actually it's not just teaching the engineers, but it's also teaching our finance people and our whoever comes into contact with these types of things. And I think the mindset element is really important for us as well, and teaching people how to do that.
Yeah, that's a great point. I love that note. I think we know that controlling cloud costs takes a huge strategy, right? You have to have the observability, you have to have the culture of awareness, you have to have additional tooling, you have to have governance. So thinking about, maybe we'll throw to Brent at Capital One, how are you juggling that suite of levers and sticks and carrots to achieve the overall goals?
Oh, I love it. We prefer to stay away from sticks and carrots. Really, we've taken a kind of a twofold approach to it. I guess the first one is trying to be able to surface insights to the developers directly in the IDE. In essence, like prevent a problem before it becomes a problem. If we can start to be able to help developers make better choices before they go to be able to provision infrastructure, we end up with less things that we have to be able to work with them to then clean up on the back end. The second piece of it is there is a lot that goes into provisioning the different components of an application. A lot of times it becomes unpredictable how they're actually going to start to be able to work at scale. So when and where we can, we try to be able to go through and actually automate the remediation of that from we'll say like a sizing or a family perspective, just so the developers themselves, after they deploy the feature, they'll take the care and maintenance on so they don't have to worry about those types of things.
Yeah, that's terrific. Yeah, Anand, did you have something else on that?
Yeah, I was just going to add to that. I think what I've seen is you've got like you said, there's all these different tools that you see, like observability, FinOps, and all of these types of things. But what we're always looking to improve is, can we actually consolidate those tools? So can we have a single tool that will do observability, FinOps, and automation, or these types of things? So that's one thing we're always looking to improve on. I think the other element is around it's not just about the tooling, it's more about also process improvement and education. And I think with the scale that we're on, it's important that everyone's bought in to how we're trying to improve from a both innovation and from a cost perspective.
That's excellent. I'm so glad you mentioned scale. You're both tackling huge scales, right? So Anand, we'll stay with you for a moment. Can you speak to some of the examples or some of the lessons learned in particular about how you're thinking about tackling command of cloud costs at the scale of GSK?
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think for us, if I was to put it down to one sentence, it's all about the balance between how you centrally govern the infrastructure in the cloud and how much you federate. I think Brent said a great couple of things about how we can provide infrastructure as code to our application and developers, but can that code be governed in such a way that they won't do something silly which spirals the cost out of control, or they deploy something that isn't secure. So we're using a combination of cloud policies, central type pipeline and governance through those pipelines to be able to make sure that people sort of don't essentially shoot themselves in the foot when they're actually provisioning or managing their own infrastructure. So I think for us, it was about building a good foundation with good policies and then obviously using those to ensure that people can go back to the benefits of the cloud, like we talked about earlier around the innovation, but making sure that they stay within the boundaries that we set.
Yeah, that's so critical, making sure that you can actually realize all the promises of the cloud. Earlier today, we were hearing about the promises the cloud has been making and breaking, and how you can try to mitigate those things. Brent, we'll throw to you. Do you have any examples or anecdotes that you could share about, this is probably a rough road to get to. Yeah, what can you share about that?
So we one of our journeys that we've been on is when and where it makes sense, can we actually look to be able to go serverless? So one of my favorite stories is we had talked to a team that was running a whole lot of ETL processes. And they said, yes, we're going to run really fast. We're going to try to be able to go through, migrate all of our workloads into a serverless environment. Lo and behold, they did it, and come to be able to find out shortly thereafter, not only did they not achieve some of the savings they're looking for, but they actually increased their cost exponentially. So they came back to us, okay, can you help us actually take another look at this? So just starting to be able to go under the covers at the software layer, come to be able to find out they're running a library called, in this case, pandas for data manipulation. And anybody that's worked in Python for a while has had experience with pandas. It's a wonderful library. It's a wonderful animal. It's not really good for ETL jobs at scale. And when they were running on dedicated infrastructure, that didn't really tease out. So what we did in that particular case is just, help them understand that there was a library that did almost the same thing, polars, but just significantly more efficient. So just with some small modifications to the code, they were able to achieve a significant both cost and performance enhancement. But it's these types of things is we're starting to be able to ask our development teams to be able to make changes to the infrastructure. We've got to be able to understand that there's so much for them to be able to know from a resiliency perspective, a security perspective, all the internal tooling perspective, that they don't always have a full grasp on what their software is actually doing at an infrastructure level. So this is where getting to that next level of observability to be able to help them understand the implications and tease out some of the insights is incredibly important.
That's a great example. I'm curious. So you they tried to do what was recommended. Their costs tripled or more, and then you helped them resolve the issue. How have you learned from that kind of attempted good faith measure that didn't quite get the results? How can you continue to instill trust in folks as they're trying to move to the cloud, and how are you continuing to help them sort of preemptively balance those costs?
So what we've started to be able to do in this particular case is just help them understand that it's not a one size fits all solution. In some cases, serverless may be a great option for what they're looking to be able to achieve. In other cases, it might be a standalone infrastructure or even managed platforms. So just working through, and a lot of it depends on the use case, but also the size of the workload they're looking to be able to migrate, that we help them make the right choices for what's going to be best for their particular use case in the long run.
Phenomenal. Thank you. Anand, anything on that topic before we move on?
Yeah, I think for us, I wouldn't say it was, nothing surprises me anymore. But to be honest, if I was to think about what we've learned is just connecting with people and understanding what their priorities are. Because, we talk about cloud costs a lot, and we talk about, it's a no-brainer to sort of reduce cloud costs. But for some people, that's actually not their number one priority. Their number one priority is keeping their application up and running because it's so critical to the business. And they don't actually, in certain circumstances, cost will be so way down their list of priorities. But it's about connecting with those people and number one, understanding that, but also trying to teach them and say, well, hey, you know what, I can meet your operational targets, I can meet your resilience targets, whilst I'm also reducing the cost. And it's about making them feel comfortable and ensuring to them that we won't break their system. So I think for us it was just a bit of an eye opener that hey, what do you mean you're not caring about that cost? Because number one, their priority is to have that application or system up and running 24/7, no matter what.
Yeah, terrific. And again, having that conversation team by team is a lot. So how does that how do you scale that interaction? How do you scale that conversation and that culture of awareness and that culture of cloud cost prioritization? What sort of structures or measures have you implemented internally to help with that?
So yeah, we can. So what we've done, we have a forum. we love our forums. So we create like FinOps forums. We create like cloud type ask us anything type forums where we try to, number one, give that awareness to everybody so that they can come and see, what is it that we're doing and how can they learn off others. So again, we create these sort of small little academies where we can sort of teach people how to use IAC, because not everybody's in on that journey yet. Yeah. So I think teaching them that, hey, you can actually spin up and destroy your dev environment, and actually, hey, look how much it's going to cost. How much is going to cost today versus when you do have this dynamic type of environment for your dev test, then this is the difference. And again, it comes back to that maturity of where each app team is at. But we try to do it more of a sort of a pull method, as I would call it, rather than a push, because it can push people away if you try to force it too much.
Understood. Yeah, that's great. There's a whole psychology element to it too, in addition to the actual organizational one too, right? Brent, same question for you. As you're trying to instill new habits and priorities and thought process across the organization at scale, what are some either tooling or process or structure that you've put into practice that has helped with that?
Yeah, so I think it starts with becoming like very opinionated on what is good by service or what's the expectations by service. Then starting to be able to create controls and patterns, and where you can either apply those opinions through your either your pipelines or infrastructure as code as part of like a repeatable pattern for developers. And then we actually take a look from a cost and performance perspective and provide scoring for each application, level it up by division, then level it up by enterprise, just so we're able to give tiers of where we see pockets of good and pockets for opportunities for change.
That's a great point. Understanding and helping folks understand what good looks like can often be a big part of that battle too. It sounded like you mentioned something along the lines of scorecards. Is that a literal practice that you've implemented?
Yeah, we refer to it internally like as spend efficiency. We take a look at if you had followed all the best practices and patterns and you're running at an optimal cost performance level, you would be here. We see you here, and then we try to be able to give you a roadmap for how to be able to get to, once again, good in this particular case.
Gotcha. And Anand, is that are there some similar things you're hearing there that you've implemented in GSK also?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, like scorecards is one. Absolutely, we've got we've got some things around. We're trying to introduce like gamification, that type of thing, where you can make it a little bit more playful, which actually then delivers some sort of benefits for the business. And again, yeah, like there's I think the other element is we've got to think about the personas of the developers and the application teams, and there is a wide range of personas. So we are taking a strategy around 3 modes of execution or consuming our cloud services, and it's based on either what we call click, call, or execute. So you either click through a web portal, you either call an API, or you execute an infrastructure as code. So it's about also providing a wide range of different ways to do what we're trying to get out of the cloud, based on the experience of the teams that are consuming our services.
That's terrific. All right, as we're drawing to a close here, I would love to wrap things up and help crystallize everything from your thoughts for the folks here today by asking you a question. If you could travel in time and go back and speak to your past self, what would be the #1 piece of advice you would share about taking command of cloud costs to your past self? So Anand, let's start with you.
Oh, that's a tough one. I take it I'm not allowed more than one. I think for me, it's got to be that you've got to have the right foundations in place. Because if you don't have that in place, then you can't move much more further than that. And I think if you get the foundations right, you can then build a good team around it. You can then innovate quicker, I think, without worrying about all of those costs coming through. And I think if you get the good foundations in place, I think for me would be is the bedrock really of everything that comes from there. So that would be mine, Ethan.
That's terrific insight. So often things grow organically, right? It's so hard to set that foundation in advance, but better late than never, right? So that's great. Yeah, same question for you, Brent. You're time traveling, you're seeing dinosaurs, you're seeing everything, but then you land on yourself in the past. What are you telling you?
So the first thing that I would do after buying NVIDIA stock would be, and this is going to probably align exactly with what Anand was just saying, is, can I start to be able to build solutions at scale? It is terribly tempting as you start to be able to take a look at like pockets you can optimize, to be able to go run after one, run after another. And just at the end of the day, it's very difficult to be effective at scale if you're solving individual problems. So take a step back. Instead of solving the individual problems, can you start to be able to put like an architecture, a framework in place that actually scales to be able to address the business needs across the entire enterprise?
Excellent. This has been wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing your time here. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.